The first time I saw her, she was hacking at a sunflower. Not metaphorically. I mean, she was actually holding hedge clippers like a pair of angry scissors and whacking at my daughter's sunflower that had proudly grown taller than the mailbox. I was standing across the cul-de-sac, watering my lawn, and at first I thought she was trimming her own hedges. But no, she was on our side, and her lips were twisted into a smile that was more of a snarl. She was Karen, the HOA president, a woman with too much power, too little kindness, and a permanent clipboard glued to her hand. That sunflower was just the beginning. You see, my daughter Ellie and my son Max had built a treehouse with me during the summer. It was a crooked, charming little fort nestled in the strong arms of the maple tree in our front yard. They painted it with swirls of color, hung up wind chimes made of bottle caps and spoons, and planted marigolds underneath. To them, it was more than wood and nails. It was imagination made real. To Karen, it was an unauthorized, elevated structure in direct violation of HOA Code 12.4.3a. Her words. We didn't think it would escalate. We thought a conversation might fix things. But Karen didn't converse. She declared. She declared war. One morning, Ellie screamed. I ran outside, barefoot, coffee in hand, and there she was, Karen, with an axe, a real, actual, two-handed axe like something out of a horror movie, and she was swinging it against the tree trunk. Not a clean-cut swing either, just angry chops, splinters flying, her robe fluttering like she'd escaped from a suburban asylum. You're trespassing, I barked. I'm enforcing HOA code, she shrieked. This unsightly wooden monstrosity is coming down today. Max stood frozen beside the mailbox. Ellie ran up to her and stood between the axe and the tree. If you touch it again, I'm calling the sheriff, I growled, reaching for my phone. Karen huffed and marched off, her slippers squelching in the dew. You'll be hearing from the board, she shouted over her shoulder. She was right. 2 days later, a typed letter arrived. HOA violation notice, treehouse must be removed within 10 days. Or else we'd face fines, legal action, and, get this, lawn confiscation. My kids were devastated, but not broken. That night over dinner, Ellie slammed her fork down. She wants us to live in a box. No color, no fun, no trees. Just bricks and gray grass. Max whispered, maybe if we make her see it's not just about us. Maybe if everyone had a treehouse. That was the spark. They called it the Nature Love Campaign. They drew posters with crayons, squirrels holding picket signs, raccoons planting trees. They printed flyers that said, "Tree houses bring us together," and "Nature is a neighbor too." They went door to door, handing out homemade cookies shaped like tree leaves. They invited kids from every house over for a backyard tree picnic, complete with lemonade, bird watching, and storytelling from the treehouse balcony. The parents came too. Some were hesitant at first. This was a strict neighborhood, and no one wanted to be the next HOA target. But Ellie and Max didn't care. They gave speeches. They passed around handmade surveys. They collected signatures for a community vote. Karen countered with her own campaign, Operation Uniformity. She handed out glossy pamphlets with graphs about neighborhood value depreciation and aesthetically offensive architecture. She even had one page titled, "The Insect Infestation Risk of Wood-Based Structures." But her grip on the neighborhood was slipping. The kids had started something bigger than her. One Sunday morning, I walked out to see 5 houses had tiny birdhouses hanging from their trees. A week later, one dad, a former carpenter, installed a rope ladder in his oak tree. Another mom built a reading nook in her maple with her teenage daughter. Karen was livid. She marched door to door with her clipboard, demanding compliance. But now, people were closing their doors in her face. The vote was scheduled for the first Saturday of the month, a formal community HOA vote to either uphold the ban on treehouses or overturn it and allow them in front yards. Karen was confident, but Karen didn't count on my kids.
At the front of the room, Karen sat like a vulture in pearls. Her hair was taut, her lips pursed so tight they looked sewn shut, and her clipboard, of course, lay before her like a judge's gavel. Her chosen seat was dead center, flanked by two supporters who clapped a little too hard any time she blinked. I sat in the back with my wife, watching Ellie and Max whisper over their cue cards. Max adjusted the mic, which squeaked horribly. Karen rolled her eyes and mumbled something about amateur theatrics. Ellie stepped up first. She didn't need a script. "We built our treehouse with love," she said, her voice carrying across the room like the ring of a bell. "Not just for us, for birds, for squirrels, for stories, for quiet, for adventure." Max followed, a little more nervous. "When we planted flowers under it, bees came, then butterflies, then robins built a nest. We watched the babies hatch, and then someone tried to cut it all down." A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. One mother dabbed her eyes. Then Ellie held up a drawing. It was crayon on cardboard, nothing fancy, just a sketch of a street lined with houses, each one with a treehouse, some with flags, some with bookshelves, some with tiny lanterns. It looked like a dream. "We don't want to fight," she said. "We want to build." There was silence. Real, heavy, hopeful silence. Then Karen stood. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. "This is emotional blackmail," she snapped, voice sharp as broken glass. "Tree houses bring insects, wood rot, children fall, insurance goes up, resale values go down. You think this is sweet? It's chaos in construction." She slammed the clipboard on the table. "Our HOA was founded on order, not tree houses." The board called the vote. Each homeowner present would cast a ballot, yes or no, and place it in the clear box at the front. No emails, no proxies, no outside interference. One by one, neighbors stood and dropped their slips inside. I watched Karen's eyes with every vote. At first she seemed smug, then her forehead tightened, then the corner of her mouth twitched. And when Mrs. Grant, an 82-year-old widow who always wore sun hats the size of umbrellas, stood and declared, "I want a tree house with my grandkids," Karen's hand gripped her clipboard so hard the plastic cracked. The votes were tallied in silence, and then the verdict. 8-1. Overturned. Tree houses permitted in front yards with voluntary design review and safety standards. Karen's lone no echoed in the box like a ghost no one invited. Cheers erupted. Max and Ellie jumped into each other's arms, their voices drowned in the sea of laughter, clapping, and joyful chaos that filled the room. One of the dads high-fived me so hard my palms stung. Karen stood there, frozen. Then, without a word, she picked up her clipboard, snapped the cracked corner clean off, and stormed out the side door. That weekend was a renaissance. Hammers and nails became music. Trees that once stood ignored now bore planks and platforms and imagination. One neighbor built a pirate ship treehouse with sails and a crow's nest. Another made a quiet meditation deck with wind chimes and bamboo. We saw murals, solar lanterns, even one with a zip line that stretched across the lawn and into a pile of hay. It wasn't about the structures. It was about belonging. About the neighborhood finally feeling like a place where roots could grow, in trees, in families, in friendships. Karen? She moved 2 months later, put her house up for sale with a sign that read, "Quiet HOA Community, Strict Guidelines." Nobody bought it. We joked about building a treehouse in her empty yard just to spite her, but Ellie said no. "She doesn't deserve one," she said. "She never learned how to share." Max nodded solemnly and planted a sapling near the edge of our property. "Someday someone else will live there. Maybe they'll want to build." We called it Hope Tree. And in time it grew, just like us, just like this wild, imperfect, beautiful place we called home, now stitched together by branches, laughter, and the rebellion of children who refuse to let someone chop down their joy. And so if you ever drive through our neighborhood, don't be surprised when you see a dozen tree houses, some tall, some tiny, some bright, some simple. That's not disorder. That's unity. And it started with an axe and two kids who loved a tree.